Our first panelist holds a title that brings together two words that have long been the subject of industry fascination: Google and travel. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Google's Global Accounts Director of Travel, Mr. Bernd Fauser. Next, he works for a social network whose stated mission is to make the world more open and connected. With over 1 billion monthly users, they're getting a little closer to their goal. Here to tell us what it means for travel, please welcome Facebook's head of travel, Mr. Lee McCabe. Just months after a successful IPO, his company made headlines again when it was snapped up by Priceline in a surprise $1.8 billion deal set to close this month. How's that for a vote of confidence in the meta-search model? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Vice President of Package Travel for Kayak Europe, Mr. Jan Valentin. So gentlemen, first of all, 2 out of 3 of you aren't even really specifically working for a travel company, right? Working for a horizontal company with a travel vertical. And also, you are all obviously leaders in everything that you do. In search, in social, and meta. We have the 3 really top companies represented on this stage. So I want to start by asking you where you see yourselves now in that search, shop, buy funnel, and how do you see that shifting over time?
First of all, I just want to point out, Bernd has just changed into that Google T-shirt. Shameless acts of promotion should be called out.
Well, you should be wearing your
I'm
Facebook
only jealous I didn't wear a Facebook
pin.
Make it easy for the audience.
So where is Google in that search, shop, buy funnel? And but where do you see that shifting?
So I think, first of all, to make it more fun, I disagree.
Okay, disagree with everything I just said?
Obviously.
Or anything in particular?
So I think the success formula is integration. So combining the different things you just mentioned. So imagine, all of us are in Berlin tonight and we want to find a decent restaurant. So how do we find a restaurant? We can go through the list of 2,800 restaurants, or we ask a friend. So Lee will say, ask friends. That's the powerful thing. If we need a flight back from Berlin to another destination, maybe asking a friend is not a good idea. Maybe go to Kayak and check the schedule, prices, who's flying there. And if we come home after a long party night in Berlin and don't find our hotel, we just need a stupid address. So each of these things are important for the customers, but each of them individually, I think, is not powerful enough. So it's the combination. So with Google Universal Search, we're combining stuff we find on the web with social content, social signals, and professional content we get from our partners. And I think that's what the user wants.
So you see it less about whether or not you're kind of on top of the funnel, looking for a destination, looking for ideas, versus the bottom of the funnel, looking and being ready to make a transaction. You see it more just about the individual, the circumstances, perhaps the destination. You kind of see different factors playing a role in whether or not it's use of meta, it's use of general search or social search.
Yeah, for the audience or the users at home, it doesn't really matter. As Philip said this morning in his opening speech, they want a seamless process. No matter what device, what operating system, if it's a tablet or a phone or a desktop or a call center in store, how they connect, whatever, they want to have this seamless experience.
And you really have pretty much the 3 of the, media, of course. I think media is something that we all have a business model and needs to make money, but certainly in terms of search, meta, and with Google+, you have your search as well, social as well, so all involved in all. Lee, how about you?
Well, look, first of all, it's very early days for social, and certainly social in travel. People talk about the internet as being infantile. If that's the case, social is still embryonic. We're still very much at the start. I think eventually it'll play a part in all parts of the funnel. And to use the 5 stages of travel, it will play a part in each stage. The way I think about it is, another interesting angle, is to look at the consumer influence. And how that's changing and how all our technologies are changing that. So you go right back to the travel agent, and if you will, the wisdom of one. We moved from there to the rise of the OTAs and Google and Meta, and then we entered the wisdom of the algorithm. From there, we saw the rise of the review sites like TripAdvisor, which was really the first social travel site. Then we entered the wisdom of crowds, and there's been a lot of research validating the wisdom of crowds and how strong that influence is on travel booking. I think now we're entering the wisdom of friends, and we're starting to prove that out. And it's nothing new, right? I mean, all research you see shows that one of the biggest forms of influence is a recommendation from friends. That's been there since the dawn of man. That hasn't changed. All social is doing is enabling that and scaling that. So it's always on, and you can always get those friends' recommendations based on social signals anytime you want. So I think we're moving there, and that will be a very strong form of influence.
Okay. So I want to get more into that, but first, Jan.
But just, I mean, I obviously would agree on the importance of social. Just to doubt a bit that we know already where it's going, that even you know already where it's going. I mean, the assumption that everything's in Google. We haven't really seen this happening with acquisitions Google has done, for example, in the US, of course, in the flights business. So our focus is pretty much on, obviously, product price comparison and making social content valuable for that as well. So giving better search results based on actually knowing what people write about stuff on the internet is one of the things.
So how are you doing that?
Well, it's an algorithm which we've developed to actually read the enthusiasm that people attribute to certain objects, be it destinations or be it hotels, and just gathering from the sources we just mentioned. So this is really pretty much our focus, I guess, a little bit more narrow maybe than yours is, but something where we focus on.
So social search and graph search, I mean, we know that it's about, right, so the wisdom of friends versus the wisdom of the crowd, but can you talk a little bit more about its definition? Like, what does it really do? What does it mean? How is it transforming the travel decision-making process?
I think, look, it's started to transform it. It will transform it a lot eventually. Graph search, we launched about a month ago, where there's a lot of PR and news around that. The truth is, it's still very early days for graph search. It's still in beta. We've only released it to a very small audience, and we're going to carry on testing that until it's an exceptionally good product. And I get asked a lot of questions about how you're going to monetize that. That's really secondary. I mean, first of all, we want to create the best experience possible in graph search, and then we'll think about monetization later. And graph search really enables the scaling of the recommendations from friends. So to give you an example, and something we looked at just in the early stages, no surprise, people who are testing graph search now, the #1 search is for friends and connections and friends who like ABBA or friends who like Star Wars or things like that. The second is places. So pretty close behind, people searching for, show me hotels that my friends like in London. Show me hotels that my friends have stayed at in London. So if you think about that, the ranking that will return should be pretty compelling. And it's actually available now, but I think only in the US for another product called, I don't know what it turns on the sales pitch, called Nearby, which is really graph search. So Nearby is on your phone. Whatever city you're in, you say, show me hotels, and it's based on the wisdom of friends and friend recommendations.
So is social search going to be more effective than general search for travel?
No, I think both have a place.
And you obviously think that too.
I obviously think that for the user, there's all these different things. Sometimes it's just a link, what they need, or address, or phone number. In other cases, it's the friend that you ask. But if I search for a flight out of Berlin, I don't ask a friend. I want to know. I need structured data. And I think that's the trick. So to integrate the different items and make consumer experience that allows to play around with that. So if the user is looking for an advice from a friend, surf this. If he's just looking for an address or just a link, he needs to get that. So I think that's the power. That's why I said integration is so important of all three things.
So with social search, especially even with friends, with a large contingency of friends, obviously we're still not going to have enough volume for certain destinations and certain experiences. So how then does general search kind of play a role? Can it kind of be integrated with social search? Or how do we kind of enhance that social search experience, but at the same time kind of maintain the purpose of what it's meant to be?
So in our case, it's already fully integrated. So if you search for a hotel in Berlin, your results look different than mine. So if a friend of mine stayed at a specific hotel, in my search result, his face show up, and then I can go continue. And that's pretty powerful. Right. So if I look for a hotel, the system knows he's in my circles, he's a friend of mine, and then he shows up in my results. So the results are personalized, and you will get different results than I get. And this can you only do if you have this social layer across all products. That's why I think our founders always try to explain that Google Plus is not just another social network. It's creating a social layer across all our products. And I think now over time people realize, because it pops up here, pops up there, and they realize, oh, that's what they meant.
Okay. So now let's integrate meta search in with this. So we're integrating general search, social search, beautifully done. Now we have meta, right? And in Google's case, you have hotel finder, flight search. So now what does that look like? What is social search being kind of integrated into meta look like in the travel space?
So if you ask...
Yeah, please.
Well, if you look
But
at
you don't
flights...
have social search yet, right?
Well, we're working on it.
Okay.
I think it's not our key focus. Our key focus is actually price and product comparison.
So what is that going to look like?
I think we do better than anybody else. I mean, Google is obviously working on it, Trivago in the hotel segment very well. Social search elements for flight search, not as important, obviously, as for packages, for example, or for hotels. Now, if you look at how we talked about UI and how users actually use reviews today in searching, I would still have the doubt that the core element of that general search is going to be social search. If you look at the search results which you get browsing on Google and the search terms that people actually use, it's still pretty basic, right? I mean, you would get last minute, and that's the keyword, some combinations of that, Mallorca, and then so the whole search behavior today on the internet, be it on a meta search or on the classical OTA sites or on Google, is pretty simple. I have a bit of a doubt that the social search is yet as important in that actual buying decision in the end as some may want it to be.
As important as?
Some may want it to be, yeah.
Okay.
I disagree. You can disagree as well.
No, you disagree.
What do you think? You're biased. What do you think, Darley?
Look, I think the best example of kind of the integration is TripAdvisor. I use them a lot as best practice, so really the first social media company moving into meta search. So
now how many TripAdvisor users are now kind of using also Facebook and integrated to Facebook?
TripAdvisor really jumped on the open graph and really taken advantage of all that Facebook can offer, and are really dipping into it, and it's helping. It's helping them a lot.
It seems to be in hyperdrive lately too.
Yeah. I mean, there's.
Well, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that people read reviews before they book, etc., etc. But for the search results, which are put out now by us, by Google, especially by the OTAs, I mean, it's not playing a role yet.
Not yet, but I think it'll add a form of validation. So you can go to a meta, and again, TripAdvisor will probably merge all this, and you'll find what you want you'll find a ranking based on location and price. Then I think the reviews will play a part, and social reviews. I think the validation comes from you find 5 hotels, and one of them 3 of your friends have stayed at. I think that closes the deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's going in that direction for sure. But I think we still have a long way to go in that.
So you're not really seeing the traffic?
Definitely.
Yeah. If you look at search results, any of the OTAs presents you 500 hotels in Paris. Nobody wants 500 hotels in Paris, right? You want 1. And if then it says a friend has stayed at this place or that place, that's really helpful. That's how humans work. So same for flights, same for airlines. So I think you have to connect both data points. You have to be strong in providing the scheduled data, professional content, web content, but you need that social layer, and then I think it becomes really powerful.
So what are the go ahead.
No, I was going to say, people need a good filter. You're exactly right. The choices out there are increasing every day. I mean, I think Booking now have 260,000 hotels. Your choices on flights are endless. Social is actually adding to that with the the exponential sharing. So there's a lot of data out there. People are looking for better filters, and that filter of friends, I think, is going to be effective.
So you're saying it's kind of early days. The traffic going to kayak is what mostly coming from general search at this point?
Definitely looking at vertical search. I think that the search results you get, essentially you do browse catalogs and then you filter them, and the filters are non-sensitive even to the search request initially. So there is a long way still to go, which is definitely one of the fields that we're working on in that segment. And well, Google is a competitor in this, no doubt as well. To be seen if in terms of there's UI stuff, etc., to be done to do it right.
We've got an audience question over here.
It's directed at Facebook and TripAdvisor in general, because I, like probably most of you, have around too many friends on Facebook. You have 1,000 friends on Facebook. And there are a few of those friends you actually do trust blindly in terms of recommendations. And there are others that you just passing acquaintances.
Yep.
Then there's a group that you would never, ever, ever take a recommendation from. So is there any way for you to filter, to give me the option that the friends I trust in terms of travel, that are in my sort of income bracket, are the ones that are allowed to give me recommendations, while, for example, the ones I trust in terms of music, they're the ones that are allowed to give me recommendations in terms of music, because I don't want everyone's recommendations.
No, absolutely. I think, look, a good question, and that will absolutely be there. Once we get very good with graph search, that will be taken into account. And there are obvious ways to do that now. If you think you kind of label your friends in close friends, acquaintances, that's an obvious filter now. Going forward, when we get good at graph search, I'm sure there'll be ways to kind of score your friends on how influential you want them to be on music, on movies, on books, on travel. And that's really a place we should get to.
I just want to get back to Meta. So obviously, we know that the Priceline is planning to acquire Kayak, and Expedia acquiring Trivago. It's been Carol Ream just presented data showing how meta search is so influential, growing in influence in the travel decision-making process. So, can you talk about what's happening in meta? Like, all of a sudden, this seems like it's resurgence in popularity, and is that something OTAs need to, besides Priceline, need to be concerned about?
Well, we work well with a lot of OTAs actually in all markets, work well with all the providers in all markets. I think we are focusing strictly, and that's maybe a difference to Google, we are strictly focusing, of course, on that segment and trying to get the data in the right way, focusing on that, on prices. This is what people use us for. It's price comparison. It's something I don't see as much on Google, which would be another question to you, Bernard, actually, is why don't we see those products? Why are they not more prominent yet? Our search model really, and our business model really is to give people the right price and the right product. And this is what no one else does as well as the meta search. By definition, being an OTA, you don't have the full product, and Google is not as good yet as at comparing prices.
Because there's a lot of concern, naturally, especially when Kayak did the IPO, because Google was also into Meta, that would have interfered with the IPO. Obviously, it didn't, and now with the acquisition, things have kind of shifted in perception, I think, that Google is going to be a Meta killer. But where does Google sit in that Meta space?
So, it's very simple. I think, in the end, it's all about time. So when I started at Google, they showed me a study that people, travelers, it takes them 2 to 4 hours. They visit 12 websites in a 20-day period to make a simple booking. This is a waste of your time. This is a waste of everybody's time. So how can we make this process more efficient? That's what we're working on. So get somebody from dreaming about a vacation to experiencing it as fast as possible. And I think everybody agrees the current process on researching, planning, booking, comparing, asking friends, it's a nightmare. So our mission is just to make this as easy and efficient as possible. To do this, it's not enough to show links. We have to have professional content. We're working hard on that to surface these kind of results. And we have to have sometimes a friend's recommendation. And I think if everybody in the industry is focused on that, making that experience better, it should benefit the whole ecosystem.
So what do you see, though, that kind of some strategy shifting to kind of put more emphasis behind? I mean, we have with Flight Search and Hotel Finder, I mean, is it kind of reached expectations, or are you seeing kind of a little shift in strategy, making them a little more?
No, and it's not only
growing?
travel. I think the clear mandate from our founder is to get people quicker from an intent to action. And in the past, where we were just surfacing a lot of links, this is not good enough. So if somebody searched for the weather, would you ask your friend? No. Would you like a link? No. You want to know the weather. So we have to surface these results. And I think that's consistent in travel, in other verticals, in other areas, with maps, YouTube, and other things. We just have to help the user to quicker from one point to the other. And if this requires us to partner with industry to get the relevant data, then we do it.
Another question from the floor? Sorry.
Ari Kalfine, Travel Labs. Where do you see the future in meta search for travel experiences versus flights and hotels?
I actually wanted to address this point. I mean, you're presupposing that the person out there already has a question which is discrete and you want to serve this question. I think we also have to take care about the inspirational part of things, which is especially important, of course, for those kinds of experiences. And there, social becomes very, very important. This is a huge UI question in many regards. How do you help the person to find the right destination in the first place? Talking about experience or holidays, for example, something we're working on hard and actually trying to get from what people write on the internet to find out what they actually want and what they think is great and what is just good, and really using the social content in that context.
We've got another. Oh, sorry.
Do you think that mobile can play a role there?
Yeah.
In the inspiration phase?
Absolutely.
Well, it does.
I think,
Okay.
look, I think the two recent acquisitions from Priceline and Expedia were smart plays. I think it's all about mobile. I think right now we're in a land grab, a digital land grab. The past 10 years, I think the land grab has been domain names and URLs. Going forward, the land grab is getting your app on someone's mobile device. And we'll see the importance of that going forward. And I think we'll see the importance increasingly of getting on the first 2 pages. I think first mover advantage is going to count. And personally, I'm never going to have several apps on my mobile. I'll probably end up with 2 or 3. One of them will be an aggregator. Meta is perfect for that. And we can see that getting more and more traction now, the growth of people using mobile, booking via mobile, booking windows decreasing, same-day booking is increasing. Mobile is hugely important. And I think Meta is a smart play.
So how does Meta integrate into Facebook?
It doesn't yet. Is the honest answer.
Okay. One more over here.
How do you see the role or perhaps the impact of tour operators in the online space in the upcoming years?
Well, I think it's still strong. I mean, there is no doubt that you need someone who fulfills the customer's needs in the very end, a very simple answer to that. So we work with all the tour operators and all the OTAs out there. Tour operators are improving their usability. They're getting better chance to build their own websites faster and better. So they are, in a way, also preferred partners for us versus OTAs in some regards. It really depends. So I think, actually, that the share of the tour operator business online is not necessarily going to drop, and certainly not because of Meta.
I think if you are a tour operator who owns the value chain end-to-end, you combine that with mobile, it becomes really interesting. Because then what an OTA cannot do or Meta can do, in destination, they can continue to interact with their customers, and you can have all kinds of creative ideas what they can do in destination, what they're currently not doing. It's disconnected. So I think hotel chains, tour operators have actually in the mobile world, I think, a new chance to build a really interesting, compelling service.
So some of the assets that Google has, right, Frommer's and Zagat's, how is that being integrated into the mobile strategy?
So, as I said before, we have in our servers like 30 trillion websites. We're updating every day like 20 billion of them. But this is not good enough. Sometimes you need professional content. That's why we acquired Zagat or Formers. That's why we acquired ITA, because you don't find flight schedule or price or availability data in the internet so easily. So sometimes you need this professional content. On other cases, with Hotel Finder, with FlightSearch, we're partnering with the industry. Like a lot of people who are here have deep data and technology partnerships with us, because it's just not enough to crawl 30 trillion pages.
Bernard, are you compromising your core business model with those kinds of products? Or is there any?
I don't think so. I disagree. The core business is to deliver as quickly as possible an answer to a question. And maybe in the first years of Google, it was good enough to provide links. But I think today it's just not good enough. People are not only looking for links, they're looking for answers. And that's what we have to work on. If they want to have a map, they should get a map. If they want to know the weather, they should get the weather. If they want to know how a shoe looks, they should see how the shoe looks. So we have to develop new ways of surfacing these kind of results. And I think it's the only way to survive. If we stick to just showing links, I wouldn't be at Google.
Advertising, Facebook Exchange. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And that's how that initiative is taking off in this travel space?
Sure. So Facebook Exchange is relatively new. I think we launched it in November. And basically, it's our retargeting model. So once someone has visited your website but hasn't made the transaction, you can retarget them on Facebook. And retargeting isn't something new. Retargeting has been out there on various ad networks for a long time. This is just bringing it in-house. This is Facebook's version.
So you're saying that behavioral... Hey, cut me off. It's better than cutting anybody else off. I want to thank our panel, Brand Fauser, Lee McCabe, and Jan Valentin. Thank you very much.